welcome to the Darkstream, Vox Day, voxday.net, and unauthorized.tv. Thanks for firing it up. It has been a busy weekend. It has been a very positive bank holiday Monday in the UK. Not that I'm in the UK, but it has been a positive bank holiday Monday in the UK. Wute Bear is here. Good evening, Vox and Legends of UATV. Yeah, the Legends of UATV are struggling a little bit in that we're having some technical difficulties with UATV. The massive uploads by a certain creator who shall go unnamed appear to have broken something. We'll get it fixed. Could be a week, could be two. We'll still be streaming and that sort of thing. It's the uploads that are the issue. But we're going to implement a new strategy that should eliminate that problem in the future. So, as with the Castelia library, we just keep plowing through each problem as we encounter it. Sea of Skulls hardcover just landed, says Ironworker Bear. How's it look? Do you like the cover and all that? Speaking of a Sea of Skulls, by the way, I think it might be as soon as tomorrow or maybe Wednesday that the based book sale begins. And what the base book sale is it's an opportunity to just get a lot of exposure out there for writers who are right of center, who are independents, and who work with small publishers like Castelia House. And so a lot of good people are involved in that, a lot of good writers. And so in order to support it, I have talked very, very long and hard with my publisher, which of course I didn't because I am the publisher. And Summa Helvetica, A Sea of Skulls, and A Throne of Bones are all going to be available for 99 cents on Kindle for however long the base book sale runs. I think it runs a week. I could be wrong, but anyhow. Ironworker Bear doesn't care because he has the hardcover, and you don't. Anyhow, I hope you enjoy it, Ironworker Bear. And I hope you will post a review on Amazon when you're done with it. That's the one thing that unfortunately I think a lot of us on the right don't do, is some of the easy free things that we can do to help support people. And I'm just as guilty of this as anyone else. I mean, if I've got time, I should, well, I can't with, actually, now that I think about it, I'm not allowed to review anything on Amazon. That's why I don't do it, right? No chances. How long would it take for the audiobook to be completed? It's being done. I think that Jeremy's done with most of it. So I'll have to shoot him an email and see where he is. But the great Jeremy Daw is doing the audiobook. He did Summa Helvetica and other stories. He also did A Throne of Bones. He's got that great English accent. Sounds like Charles Dance, the lead Targaryen from Game of Thrones. Anyhow, it'll be done soon, and when we get it done, we'll put it up here on Unauthorized once we get the uploads fixed. I'm sure the uploads will be fixed before the audiobook is done. But yeah, A Throne of Bones is like 36 hours, and A Sea of Skulls will be comparable. So, Wute Bear says, just received my Subscribe Start edition of Something Big today. Yeah, Something Big. Actually, I've got it here. Let me see. And actually, we've got the next one done too. This is Something Big. It is Frank Fosco and Chuck Dixon. It's very different than most of the stuff that we've done. It's kind of an interesting storyline. Aliens, old men. It's definitely got that sort of unique Frank Fosco style. But this is the volume 1. And volume 2, I believe, is already released to distribution. So need to get that to the gentleman at NDM Express. Are all Libraria editions stamped on front and back? Yes. It's probably overkill on our part, to be honest. It's very expensive to do that. But the books are very expensive, so, you know, the whole idea of Libraria was to do something that was just over the top for the most elite book collectors. And, you know, 22 karat gold stamped front, spine, and back. You know, that's the easy way to distinguish. I do think we're probably going to go back soon to doing the blind stamp Castelli Library on the back, but we'll use the newer logo, the Lego ed Amo, at the very least, possibly one of the newer ones. So, and I've got some good news from the bindery, which is we got one of the case makers working today. It's too soon to say for sure that it's ready to start producing cases. We hope that it is. I should know by the end of this week that it is, and even be able to show you cases that have been made at the bindery. But the good news is that it's theoretically possible now. So, so that's good. And I'm going to go ahead and fire this up for you. I haven't seen this before. First of all, I have to say thanks to the community, because you guys have come out really strong with regards to Dorking's 25 for 25 program. I think that our community actually accounted for about 25% of the people who are now owners of the football team. And so that's pretty cool. I think they're very surprised. Like, why do we have all these Americans? But it's cool, and we're going to start. I was just talking to NDM before this stream, and we're going to start getting some Dorking t-shirts, caps, sweatshirts and stuff. We're going to start getting them up on the store pretty soon. And I haven't seen this. This is Dorking Uncovered Season 5, which there's a group called Bunch of Amateurs have done this really cool documentary on YouTube. You can see it, and you can check this out. I'll answer your question in a second, Cactus. But check this out. I haven't seen it either, so let's discover it together. Is this not doing sound?
You know that the objective is going to be promotion.
In a manager, all I want is honesty, and I know for a fact that's what I'll get.
It is really, really frustrating watching them out there having fun.
I feel that I owe it not just to myself, but to him and the club.
We've got to get back to enjoying it, I think.
We've still got the British record promotions. This one this year just makes that record even better. I just want to start winning football matches. It won't be your script, it will be mine. They've been hugging for fucking ages. You've got one extra! Open your eyes! You've been given your final warning. The only fucking possession you've had is because you're fucking better players than them, not because you're fucking shaped better. You're shaped fucking shit. See you Monday, Scrambled Egg Club, wank performance. If you score now, I'm fucked. No shooting. I understand that, and we're going to have to sort something, okay, yeah? But it's one up takes some winning.
So you can see that on YouTube. Bunch of amateurs look it up, and there's literally 5. This is the 5th season, I guess. I mean, that's the trailer for season 5, and it's followed them through promotion, now relegation, and it just keeps going, and we're now a part of that. I actually got I got something. I don't know if see if I can show it to you on my phone. No, I think I got it on. I got it on something else. I can show it to you here. This was really cool. It was from today. Today they played St. Albans, beat them 2-1 despite going down a man. And this was from the post-match interview, which they post on YouTube on DWTV every week or after every game. But I thought it was pretty cool because if you look behind Mark, you can see a certain sign. The world's most beautiful Castalia Library. And so we're part of the ride. We're part of the team. And I think it's going to be great. And I hope that someday, when we're bigger than Folio Society in the UK, that Castalia Library is going to be on the front of the jerseys, not on the back. You know, when we started Library together, you know, I was just hoping that 30 of you would be interested in reading a leather book, getting a leather book. I mean, look above my head. Those are all our books. Look to the side of me. Those shelves are gradually filling up. There's still some Franklin Library up there, but it's not going to be too long before those 3 shelves are all going to be Castalia as well. I mean, we are working. I know it seems like we take forever to get the books out, but we are working incredibly hard, and we have put some things in place that neither you nor anybody else is going to believe when we are able to unveil it. But you know, so it's so fun, and it's such a privilege to be able to do this. You know, Space Bunny and I were having drinks with a friend of hers. They had puppies, so we had to go see the puppies, of course. I did manage to get Space Bunny out of there without kidnapping any of the puppies, so that was a success. But we were talking with the husband and wife. They're a bit older, and they were talking about someone who had retired, and the wife said, "So, well, when are you going to retire?" You know, because I'm actually technically, you know, I'm 56 now. I'm legally of retirement age here. I theoretically could, you know, start collecting a pension, all that sort of thing. And I just looked at her like, what? You know, I didn't really quite comprehend that she was directing the question at me. And then Space Bunny started laughing, and she's like, he will never retire. You know, why would I stop doing this as long as I can do it? you know? It's like playing football. Why would I ever voluntarily walk off the football field if I'm still able to play and contribute to the team? Why would I ever stop trying to make more and more and more beautiful books, preserving knowledge? You know, why would you stop doing that? You know, it doesn't even compute for me, because this is, it's both fun and it's also, you know, it's real. It's doing something of lasting value. These books should last centuries. And, you know, I know the feeling that I get when I open up a book from 1800 and I see, you know, yeah, I see something like that military biography of books up to 1642. And, you know, you see the value of the work that that author did back in 1798 or whenever it was that he was working to put that together. And, you know, I want people 200 years from now to look at our books and go, this is great. I'm really glad that whoever was doing this, you know, did it. Coffee Grounds Bear said, if you retire, you could finally catch up on all those YouTube videos people have been wanting you to check out. Yeah, I'll get right on that. Oh, Cactus Eater Bear had a question. Do we have a little time? I want to wait until September 1st. I think you've got all the time you need. They've limited it to 1999 people. And I don't think, I mean, I would be shocked if they ever reach that. I don't think, I mean, we're going to put it up on the crowdfund as part of the, actually that for us, that'd be the most useful thing. Do it as part of the crowdfund when we do that for the book. But we'll put the, we'll put that up, the program up there too. No, don't, this isn't the kind of thing that you should push yourself for, that you should stretch for or whatever. You know, if it's something that you really want to do, and you can afford it, you know, go ahead. But there's no need to, it's going to be there. You know, the opportunities are going to be around. And so, I mean, personally, I think it's a blast. I think it's fun. I was talking to Space Bunny about this the other day, and I won't say that I was having buyer's remorse, because, you know, the deals that we have in place are quite good for us. But, you know, there's just I always have the doubt in my mind that anything related to marketing or advertising are going to benefit you at all. You know, this probably dates back to when I worked for my dad at Artist Graphics. And we always sold our expensive graphics cards through distributors and dealers. And it was a huge pain in the ass to always be policing the distributors and, you know, distributors trying to poach dealers from people, end users trying to buy from distributors instead of their dealers. You know, it's just constant, always some drama going on somewhere. And then of course, you know, when one dealer would get a big order, then, you know, you'd hear from like 6 different dealers trying to quote exactly the same project, and it's just not the kind of business I enjoy. Let's just put it that way. Anyhow, my dad had decided, hey, we've got enough demand, you know, we should go direct to the customer and sell direct. You know, so they took out these big ads in, I think, PC Week, you know, the big industry mags, the kind of stuff that people who bought our boards would read. And they'd set up some special phone lines for people to order the boards. And because I like to, because I'm a night person, I was volunteered to cover the California shift. You know, so I needed to I got to come in late to work, but then I needed to work until 7 p.m. And they even had like 4 desks that were set up in the front of this big room and with the phones and all, and they had people you know, like manning the phones. And the big day arrives, the magazines are released. We buy the copies of them, and this big ad, artist graphics. You can buy the boards direct. And I mean, and these magazine ads cost thousands of dollars, because these were big. These were the biggest computer magazines at the time, and nobody called. Like, literally nobody called. For about a month, I would sit there and just end up, after the first day, I was just like, I told my boss, I said, look, can I like talk to my friends on the phone or something? Because I'm just sitting here. Nobody's calling. And needless to say, we didn't continue that experiment beyond the month or so. But it was such a waste. And, maybe this will turn out to be pointless from the idea of marketing books. Maybe it's not a good way of letting the UK market know that our books exist. Right now, nobody who collects books knows our books exist. They just don't. They all know about Easton. They all know about Folio Society. There's probably way more people who are aware of Franklin, despite the fact that they've been dead for 24 years, that know about us. So, but this is just a first step. And as Space Bunny wisely pointed out, she said, look, you're having fun with this. Everybody is. I mean, I've got guys on my team who will come up and talk to me about the results of the game 2 days before, of this National League South team that they'd never heard of before. It's just fun. And so I think it's great that so many of you are, coming along for the ride, because, unlike with, NFL football or Premiership soccer, at these smaller levels, a group like us makes a difference. It really makes a positive difference. And so I think it's just the antithesis of so much in the modern world today, where you have no say over what's coming in your TV. You have no say in what they're going to do to the beloved IP of your childhood. You have no say and you have no influence. And suddenly, we get to take part in these things. The stuff we do makes a difference. Would it make sense to get a bunch of amateurs on UATV? Possibly eventually. What we're probably going to do first is we're going to get Toby on here on UATV. He's the young guy who does DWF TV. Enthusiastic young guy. He does nice game summaries. And I've already talked to him and his dad, and they're totally amenable. And so we just need to kind of, like I said, once the UATV infrastructure is ready for it, then we'll do that. First time catching the Darkstream live. Interesting conversation. Please continue with the beautiful books. Oh, we definitely are. We definitely and absolutely are. In fact, allow me to show you the latest book that we're going to get out. Which thing do I need to push? Web page. There we go. So castelialibrary.substack.com. This should work, I hope. There we go. No thanks. So we just announced today the design of the Studies in the Napoleonic Wars. This is the cover, and you can see on the spine we have the Lego Ergo Schio Castelia history logo. Sir Charles Oman. We went with the Napoleonic theme. That is the famous Aquila of the Imperial Legions, the Garde Imperiale, and that is one of the end papers. So, that 22 copies still remain is not true. I think there's 20 left. Let's see. Yeah, there's 20 left. So, yeah, and Azuma says Le Bleu. Yeah, we went with a sort of French blue for this one, and but yeah, it's a print run of 600. We are 20 from being sold out already. So this is scheduled to ship on October 1st. So it's probably going to be sold out before it ships. And let me see if I can figure out how to go back. Is there a back thing? I don't know what the keys are. No. Well, anyhow, I wonder if I go to the, there we go, that should do it. I can also show you the War and Peace. We just got some, by the way, if you notice all of these pictures, these are all serializations of the Cambridge Medieval History. We're 64 episodes in so far, and what they are is they're just bite-sized chunks of text that allow people to read through it. It's one of the greatest books ever published. I would love to do a 9-volume set of this, but I wasn't too optimistic about being able to sell that to everybody. So we did the 2-volume set instead, which turned out to be beautiful and was definitely the right way to go. Let's see. Okay, Dracula. Oh, here we go. War and Peace. This is the stamp test. War and Peace is going. Both volumes 1 and 2 are going to ship on the September 15th. And I love the cannon on the spines. That is the Libraria version, of course, as you can tell with the gold on the front and back, Franklin style. And those are the 2 volumes together. Big fat book, as you can see. Oh, that was just to show the sign. So yeah, one step at a time. That Edward Bear says, that is well designed. Would you ever do a run of the work of the early church fathers? Oh, 100%. I'm a big Tertullian fan. That's absolutely something that we will do. No question. I've been doing some amateur bindings myself just to have a hard copy myself. Not many options out there. Well, if you want to help us move the process along, send us, email me with an example of what would be a good edition to scan or to work from, you know, or even just a list of you know, who the most desired authors would be. Theoretically, how many Spanish language subscriptions would it take for visibility? I think that what we'd want to do, we're going to do French first. You know, French and German tend to be bigger languages, but in general, you know, we got Castelia Library started with 50. Once we have our own bindery going, we could probably do it with as few as 30. We actually have a separate sister company set up to handle the foreign language versions. It's called Edition Alpine, and they'll be getting their first French book out probably early next year. So, but one step at a time. But if you've got a group of people that want to do a Spanish language series, talk to each other. About what it costs. It's probably priced similar to Castalia history. But what you could do is maybe break it out so that it's only 2 books a year, right? And that way, you could theoretically reduce the monthly payment to like $20 a month. It's one way to do it. But the key thing is get the group of people together. Get together, talk about it, figure out what books you want, etc., etc. Because if you come to us and say, look, here are 32 people, we would really like a subscription devoted to X. It doesn't have to be Spanish language. It could be, we would like to see a subscription devoted to the works of G.K. Chesterton. For some reason, Chesterton seems to come up with a lot of people. I like Chesterton, but I'm not particularly enthusiastic about him, so I don't quite get it, but I recognize that there are people who feel very strongly about him, especially since one of them works on the Castalia Library team. Every single time I say, so what should our book for the next 2 months be? It's always, well, Chesterton. No. I mean, someday, yes, but it's not. There's so much that we haven't done yet. But the point is that if a group of Chesterton fans got together and said, we would like a Chesterton series, we would like to do 2 books a year, or even 1 book a year, and here's how we'd like to pay for it, we can do that. And now we have the ability to do that. We didn't before we had our own bindery/virtual bindery set up, but now we do. And so if you are a member of some sort of interest club or something, talk to your folks about it. This whole thing has been a community effort from the beginning. I mean, it's not a secret. I haven't paid myself anything for any of this. I mean, Castalia Library has been a labor of great love and affection from the beginning, because it's that enjoyable, it's that worth it to me. And so there's no reason why some of you with specific interest groups and specific writers, specific languages, whatever, shouldn't go ahead and put groups together and then just say, what can we do? So none of this was actually what I was planning to talk about. I mean, I was planning to play the season trailer, which is good, but what I wanted to talk about, and I should get to before I have to knock off for the night, is I suspect that the end game is rapidly approaching for Clown World. I don't know whether, I don't know exactly what form that end game is going to take. I don't know what's going to come afterward. But one thing that's very clear is that there's a level of desperation in both the Ukrainian front and in the Middle Eastern front that did not exist a year ago. And that level of desperation, to me, indicates that the people who are running clown world have finally begun to accept the reality that they cannot beat Russia, they cannot beat Iran, and they can't even think about openly opposing China. It was something I wrote about today, and it was kind of interesting because it's something that Andrei Martyanov, whose very important book, Losing Military Supremacy, Castelli Library, is going to be publishing soon. He likes to harp on the fact that the U.S. has never fought a real war in its history. It's not quite true, because it has fought one real war in its history, and that war was the Civil War. But, you can't really count foreign excursions, foreign adventurism as real war. That's why the U.S. came out on top after World War II. The reason that the U.S. was so wealthy for 30 years afterwards was because everyone else's economies, everyone else's industries were destroyed. The U.S. was untouched. And that was just such a massive advantage. But the thing is that it taught the U.S. a lot of false lessons. And and it's kind of interesting, because if you look at where the sovereign independent nations are, Russia, China, Iran, Indonesia, countries that own themselves, that control themselves, that are not ruled by foreigners or puppets of foreigners. Those countries have not only 80% of the population, but they have an even greater percentage of the manufacturing capacity. China alone absolutely dwarfs the USA when it comes to just producing steel. And as for Britain, forget it. I think they might have just closed down their last steel producing plant. And so, and Israel too. Israel has never fought a war in its existence. The wars that it fought were essentially battles. Look at the number of troops involved. Look at the amount of time that hostilities were engaged in. Look at how in some cases, like in the case of Suez, outsiders simply told both sides, hey, yeah, you're done fighting now. That's not war. A war is something that goes on for an extended period of time. It's something that is attritional. It's something that is existential. Russia has been fighting existential wars since the Mongols were overrunning them. They understand on a visceral level what war actually is. The US doesn't and never has. And so when you look at that and you realize that neither the USA nor Israel were ever prepared for the type of conflict that they now find themselves in. They both bet heavily on the German concept of superior quality. Superior quality, superior training will make up for inferior numbers. Well, that's only true in certain situations. It's absolutely not true when it comes to attritional existential war. Because the German approach, the US approach, the Israeli approach is very, very fragile. I'm going to be doing that comparison soon, the analysis of the war games of the Chinese attack on Taiwan. And when you look at it, it's very, very striking, because the conclusion is inescapable, that you simply cannot win a war. Everything is and it's interesting too, because that's maybe where I started figuring this out, because everything is focused on the battle, the initial battle. And then after 3 days, everything will stop. Well, tell the Ukrainians that. Pillow Vendor's a relevant question. How involved do you think the USA was in picking Kursk as the offensive push? I don't think that I don't think the US was directly involved at all. I think that, there may have been some US people involved, but they probably weren't military. Because the whole Kursk offensive, if one can call such a small, division-sized operation that, it's all political. It was all meant to change the headlines. And that is a fundamentally non-military way of looking at the situation. Every single serious military observer, professional, amateur, whatever, Martynov and Simplicius may not be the best of pals, but their responses were absolutely identical to mine, which is, this is absolutely disastrous for Ukraine. It can't accomplish anything meaningful militarily. It's not going to distract or slow down or alter Russian operations in the Donbass at all. It's not going to encourage Ukrainian morale at all. And all it's going to do is piss off the Russians. If you're a conspiracy theorist who believes that the Kiev regime is just a foreign regime that wants to kill as many white Christian Slavs as possible, that would actually be a more rational explanation than anything related to the idea that it's going to help Ukraine win the war. It's not. All it was going to do was get a lot more Ukrainians killed faster and ensure that Russia has no interest in any sort of negotiations that don't involve unconditional surrender. Anthony says, it did sound CIA rather than DoD. Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me at all if the CIA was involved. It wouldn't surprise me at all if some of the civilian clown worlders were involved and knew about it. I have no doubt that none of I would not expect that the Department of Defense people were informed, because I'm certain that they may not know war as well as the Russian general staff, but they know it well enough to know that absolutely nothing good was going to come of it. White hat theory of Zelensky killing all the Azov Nazis comes to mind. I don't think so. I doubt that very much. But Zelensky is not a white hat, clearly. When Victoria Nuland dies, I'm going to pee on her grave. I doubt you're alone. I very much doubt you're alone in that. Anyhow, it's when you see these things, I mean, the Battle of the Bulge, think about this. The Battle of the Bulge was absolutely pointless and accomplished nothing. You know, and the size of it was 3 orders of magnitude bigger than this little Ukrainian pinprick. You know, the Russians didn't even respond to it in a military manner. They responded to it with a police action. You know, they basically viewed it as, okay, you know, we just need to cut them off, hunt them down, etc. I mean, there are no lines. It's all just small groups split up that are all now being hunted down one by one. And you know, I mean, this is the problem when you're dealing with people who have successfully defeated people by engaging in wordplay and word spells for decades, is they think it works all the time. You know, it's like that. I mean, I've referenced this before, but it's just like that famous scene in A Game of Thrones when Queen Cersei demonstrates vividly to Littlefinger the difference between power and influence. Power, if utilized, always defeats influence. The way that influence defeats power is that it convinces power to not do anything. You know, I mean, all the private guns in the world, all the private guns across America are not going to accomplish one single thing if the people who own them are unwilling to use them. You know, I don't know how many more tens of millions of people have to invade the USA before Americans will actually, you know, start to take action. But, you know, I was watching a video as a woman who was talking about how her friends are moving out of Denver because apparently entire apartment complexes are being taken over by criminal gangs from Venezuela. The criminal gangs just started collecting the rents on behalf of the owner and didn't pay it to him. So, you know, the people who own the buildings can't do anything, and the police won't do anything. So, I mean, think about how much that would screw up your neighborhood if suddenly a criminal gang comes in and says, yeah, you're paying your rent to us now. You're paying your mortgage to us now. You're like, well, but I have to pay the bank. And they're like, yeah, don't worry about that. Leave it up to us. And suddenly, you know, these foreign invaders own, I mean, how is that any different than, you know, the Germans marching in and taking over your home, right? Fuber says, thanks, Vox. Your differentiation between a real war, attritional, etc., really clarified my perception of the situation. Good. I'm glad. You know, I mean, these things happen. You know, we have at the chateau, we have 2 flags that are in the great room representing the 2 Napoleonic regiments that took it over and briefly and had their regimental headquarters there. You know, that's what happens when you get invaded and conquered. Ergo, parts of the USA are being invaded and conquered, and all those private guns aren't doing anybody any good. That's power, but it's power that has been influenced so that no one utilizes it. So, you know, you can complain about Californians moving into Idaho or Texas all you like, but if you're not going to do anything about it, then you're going to get invaded and conquered. You know, that's the way the world works. That's the way the world has always worked. And you know, and the irony is that people say, well, they're just immigrants. They're just people want to live a better life for themselves. True, fair enough. But you know what? In many ways, they're actually worse than foreign occupying armies, because foreign occupying armies leave. You know? The Germans left. The Americans mostly left. The Chinese, the only time the Chinese have actually invaded anything other than, you could argue, Tibet, the only time that they've invaded anything since the Communist Revolution was in, I believe, 1979, and they invaded Cambodia long enough to kick the Vietnamese out. The Vietnamese had invaded Cambodia. All the leaders of Asia were begging Deng Xiaoping to do something about it. He turned them down twice, and then finally on the third attempt, he managed to convince them to go ahead and do that. Well, then there's the Korean War, of course. I should mention that. My grandfather fought it, so obviously there was that as well. But even there, in the case of North Korea, the Chinese came in, did their bit, and left. They kicked the Vietnamese out, and then immediately withdrew. In North Korea, I don't know how long the Chinese troops were in Korea, but they did withdraw them before too long. So, the great Martin Van Creveld himself says immigration is war. If you've never read the essay, I highly, highly, highly recommend that you read it. It's in There Will Be War, Volume 10. And I'd asked him to write an essay on the similarities between immigration and invasion through war. And he came back and said they're actually just two sides of the same coin. So, anyhow, I think that now that we're into World War III, which fortunately for most of us is not affecting us directly, it's important to understand that this is a real war. It's an attritional war, and the generals who are waging it on the anti-clown world side, on the nationalist side, are understandably being very, very patient. That's why you're not seeing Iran hit back at Israel. That's why you're not seeing Hezbollah invading the north of Israel. They know time is on their side. All they need to do is just keep the process going. And I think that's why you're seeing, somebody said something about the Samson option, which, speaking of Van Creveld, he's the one who I believe first used that phrase. That's the idea that Israel will, as one last vicious act, nuke the capitals of Europe if their situation is looking sufficiently dire. Clearly not a greatest ally, at least for Europe. Now, frankly, I don't know that is such a frightening option now that Paris and the other European capitals have all been invaded by foreigners. I suspect that, I can't speak for the French, but what I can say is that I don't know that the average French person would be that much more threatened by the fear of Paris being nuked than Americans would be if they threatened to nuke New York City and Hollywood. You know, your average American would be saying, can we crowdfund this? You know, how do we make this happen? And so, you know, success, no matter what it is, success always plants the seeds of its own destruction. You see it in business, you see it in sports, you see it in geopolitics. You know, what was a serious threat back in 1960 maybe doesn't look so bad in 2024. So, but the point is that why are we seeing mention of this? Why are we seeing people talk about that? Well, we're seeing it because for the first time in a long time, it looks like Israel has bitten off more than it can chew, more than it can digest. Because the Israeli military is not, it's very good, but it's very fragile. And, you know, the IDF cannot replenish its combatants much more effectively than the US can replace its ships. You know, I mean, the US Navy got kicked out of the Red Sea by the Yemenis. That is not what happens to a global superpower. It's no longer a global superpower when it can't even control a single maritime area. So we live in very interesting times, and you know, we live in challenging times, but here's the thing. At least we have a community. At least we have people who know and value the truth, and we have a tremendous range of skills and talents throughout the community. And so, you know, there's no reason for despair. It's just that we're living in the times where history is written about. So, you know, it's an interesting thing, but you know, the more you read history, the more you realize that you're really, really fortunate if you get to live in the parts that are too boring to write about. So anyhow, that's all I've got for tonight. Again, if you're interested in getting your hands on a copy of Studies in the Napoleonic Wars, you know, there's 20 left, so don't hesitate on those. And honestly, if you haven't subscribed to Castelli History yet, I highly recommend that you do so. I think that within a year, I think history is going to have a bigger subscription than library. So, which is astonishing when you think about it. Anyhow, thanks so much for tuning in, and I look forward to seeing you at the next Darkstream. I'm Vox Day, and this is the Darkstream.